if it's something you want to do, you find the time. Do the job that makes you money, the job that you enjoy. You do the content creating because it's a passion. Yeah, it really is a juggling act for a while.
You know, I would get off at, say, like 5:30, quickly film whatever we need to film, and then one of us would cook dinner, one of us would edit.
Now, every now and again, we would get, oh my gosh, we actually have some free time.
Yeah.
Let's sleep.
Yeah. Let's clean the house, you know?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast, brought to you by Passionfruit. I'm joined today by two familiar faces on and off screen for me. I've always seen them around, LA, going to all the really cool premieres and screenings and everything. It is Dustin and Wendy from the movie couple themselves, actually. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I first of all love what you do and kind of giving the reactors a platform to tell their individual story. So it's been really cool to watch.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun getting everyone on here, and you two have been wanting to get on here for a long time, just because, when I first started getting into the reaction space, you were one of the first channels I found because of our mutual friends, Late to the Party. I got to know them very well off screen, and then from there, they sort of even talked very fondly of you, and so I kind of looked you up and found your content, and it was that sort of initial experience I had with you and them that helped bridge the gap for me personally to get over that sort of parasocial, feeling of like seeing you people as just on-screen talent, so to speak, seeing you as real people, real individuals. So you've been a big staple for me, just learning the ins and outs of a who's who in this space.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to Robert and Vanessa over Late to the Party for the rec.
But from there, I've wanted to get to know, obviously have you on and get to know more about your history with the channel and how it sort of evolved from where it started. As we always do, we start at the very beginning here, which between the two of you being the movie couple, how did you two meet and what's the story there?
We met sword fighting.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to take that?
I love this one because, when Wendy and I first met, we were actually working for a fencing studio. And we started off, the studio was fencing, fight choreography for film and television. And we also did special events.
Entertainment events. So we would be hired out to do, whether it's corporate events or birthday parties, as performers.
So when we first met, we were actually already dating other significant others. And so we first became friends and we did a lot of work together. We did a lot of events together. And just throughout the first year of us knowing each other, we both had split up with our significant others. And we were already hanging out, spending a lot of time with each other. And then things just started to blossom. Yeah. And I was like, I want to know more about this lovely young lady. So we started spending more and more time together.
It was like we had a lot in common. Like he liked all the things that I liked that I, at the time, because this was like tens of years ago, still kind of in that weird space of is it cool if I tell people that I like Star Wars? Is it cool that I wear Star Wars t-shirts? Kind of in that time where it's like I felt like liking all these things were too dorky, and then I was looking at his DVD collections one day, and I saw that he has the full collection for Farscape. I'm like, this is my people right here. Yeah. So it kind of went from there.
Yeah. Was there anything specific you can recall that you bonded over? You said movies and stuff like that. Was there any sort of fandom or specific interests you both had that you sort of realized we share this?
Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars. We both love Star Wars. We both love... Well, the thing is, though, we worked for a sword fighting company. So we both had a little bit of martial arts background. Yeah. We both had a passion for action movies. We both had a passion for sword fighting. And that's how first our friendship blossomed and then our romance blossomed.
Yeah.
And from there, we've built a lot of passions together. From both love Disney. That's actually where I proposed.
Yeah, Disneyland.
Our
big
first
thing.
real big date was like going to Disneyland.
Right.
And then we got season passes, and we've just never let go of them.
Yeah.
We've kind of always had them, and it's become such a special place to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's where I proposed. And
It's not where we had our weddings.
It's not.
Disney weddings are very expensive. and
Right.
We did like, I think I put like an hour of research into a Disney wedding. I was like, yeah, that's out of my budget. That's cool.
I would have loved to have done that though. There were a couple videos that I saw that I was like, oh, that would be
Yeah.
so cool.
What we should have done is apply for one of those like reality, like dream wedding shows that Disney do. You know, I don't know if they would have looked at our story and been like, I don't know, pass. But
Right.
We're like,
would've
we'll
given
put a
us
sword
chance.
fight during the wedding.
Yeah.
We know how to do that.
They may have gone for that. Who knows?
That's true. Did you have any specific creative outlets prior to getting into YouTube that you guys shared?
Prior to getting into YouTube, I think for the both of us coming from entertainment spaces, it started with theater. For me, it was musical theater and
Same here.
dance. When I lived in Florida, and I just kind of I didn't really study in college because my mom was like, that's not a career, you know, and she was like, you'd have it as an elective. So I kind of did that. And then moving out to LA, I was thinking, okay, I'll pursue dance, theater, and like television film, so theatrical stuff out here. And which is how I auditioned into the fencing studio, because they were looking for improv performers who were able to, you know, like learn choreography quickly, able to like hold your own against like whether it's party with the kids or corporate events or whatever it may be. So that was kind of the outlet there prior to YouTube for the both of us.
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of theater arts when I was in high school and in college and in junior college. That was pretty much my main focus. I got my bachelor's degree in theater arts.
Right.
I spent a lot of time dancing when I was in junior college, but I've also, before, like when I was in elementary school, I actually had 2 knee surgeries. So
Elementary school?
yeah, oh, not elementary school, junior high.
Okay, I was like,
My
that's
apologies,
very
junior high.
young to have
Yeah.
that.
But even when I was in dance, I was loving it. But I was like, if I go into a dancing career, I'm probably not going to have that long of a career. So let's go into stunts.
Oh yeah, that's better.
Stunts and sword fighting. And so there was this time when I was just starting off in my freshman year of college, and I was like, you know what? I want to get back into doing like fencing and sword fighting. And I just got recommendations for this one place and started working there. And then along came Wendy, and we just hit it off on the very first time that she showed up.
Yeah.
And we just started talking. We started talking geeky stuff.
Yeah.
We started talking about Star Wars. We started talking, and then we just hung out a lot.
Yeah.
And then when we both became single, it was like, this just fits. This is perfect.
Yeah.
I'm like getting closer with my best friend.
Yeah, yeah.
course.
And then aside from that too, we also both worked at theme parks.
Right, yeah.
Not Disney, because everybody's like, oh, you guys probably work for Disney. It's like, no, never. I auditioned for Disney World. But those dance auditions are hard. And also I'm 5'1". So unless I'm trying out for a costumed character, for regular dancers, I'm generally too short. But we both worked at Six Flags Magic Mountain as stilt walkers. And then from there, moved on to Universal Studios Hollywood here. We've both worked Horror Nights as characters.
Wendy was a stilt walking who.
Yeah.
Yeah, during Grinch
I'm
Fest.
still amazed on how good of a job you were able to dance.
thanks.
I mean, every time I watch those videos from you in Whoville, I'm just like, how did she do that? It was amazing.
It was fun.
And those stilts are like huge. I've been on they're
The
Bigfoots,
yeah.
and they are heavy. And yet she's doing spins. She's doing all these moves, and I know she's doing it like set after set after set after set, tram after tram. And I'm just like, yikes! You're amazing, girl.
Oh, thanks.
And I know you started the current channel in 2013, but prior to that, I know you were dabbling a little bit in YouTube and other things. I guess what was the start getting into YouTube, and was that a sort of mutual endeavor you both had an idea for, or was it one sort of inspired the other?
I think it was there's a funny story because I feel like I've always enjoyed the YouTube space because it allows any individual with a camera a platform to talk about whatever they're passionate about, right? So
Mhm.
for me, it actually started with the beauty side of things. So it's like, the beauty influencers, they do like makeup tutorials, review makeup or whatever. And I was watching a lot of that content. I was watching a lot of lifestyle vlogs. Those were, and they still are, videos and content that really resonate with me. So I naturally wanted to create something kind of in that realm. But what people don't know about beauty YouTubers is it's like if you think like regular content creating is hard, I think beauty YouTubers it's harder because you're kind of you have to look literally perfect every time. And I know maybe now in 2024, maybe that's less so. I hope it's less pressure for them, but you tend to want to look perfect in your videos. So if you record a video and you have like a couple flyaways, I know girls have pulled down their video, like hours of work, pulled it down,
Right.
and have to refilm everything, which kind of sucks the whole day out of your schedule. And so I liked it, but I felt like the pressure was so much, and I started to not enjoy creating it as much. So then I was like, I think I want to vlog. I feel like you have a lot of room to be very candid. You don't have to look absolutely perfect every time unless you choose to. And by then we were married.
That's when we started.
2013. We were not
we,
married yet.
we were engaged.
Yeah.
And we moved into our first
One
one bedroom
apartment together.
really cheap apartment.
Yeah, that's like a story for another day because that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I pitched the idea to him and I was like, what if we just like vlogged our lives? And that was fun. And we obviously wouldn't be the first or the last couple that vlogged together. But the problem with the vlogging was that no one was going to care about two completely random strangers sharing their lives online. Like what was special about what set us apart from other
Yeah.
people? Like what was it? And then that was about when I was hired. At the time, it was AMC Movie Talk. I was hired. One of our common interests have always been movies.
Yeah.
Like we loved going to, aside from Disneyland, going to movies together, talking about movies, mostly in like the fandom pop culture side of things. So like Star Wars, superhero. They weren't like
Yeah.
super superhero heavy when we got into. It was like just the beginning of
Yeah.
like
But
the Avengers.
I
stuff.
watched that AMC Movie Talk all the time. I loved watching it. And then one day
I didn't know about it prior to him.
they were saying, oh, yeah, we need like an assistant here in the office in Burbank. And I'm like, oh, Wendy, you should try this. Because like her, I can't remember why, but yeah.
I was at Universal still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and Wendy's like, oh, I'll just do it just to kind of appease him. I'll just send an
I just
application.
humored him. I was like, "There's no way I'm not getting a phone call." Like, but I'll humor him. I'll send in my stupid little resume. Have zero confidence in my abilities at all. And I was just like, "I'll send it." And then I get a phone call, and I'm like, "Oh, I have a meet." I think it was the same day,
They
or
called you
maybe
right
the
away.
next day, and I think it was 3 meetings total before I was offered the job. So it's kind of funny how that worked out because eventually, if you guys know the history of like AMC Movie Talk, it evolved, and then there was like Collider Movie Talk, which is then Eric, where like you and I got to meet doing like that and like the Schmodown stuff. But if it wasn't for this one, I like would not have even bothered to apply because I was just like, yeah, sure, it'd be a funny thing to be like, oh, remember that one time that I tried to apply for this job? Yeah.
But yeah, I've always had that passion for movie news. And then when Wendy got into Movie Talk, we really wanted to be like, you know what, this is what we love. We
Mhm.
want to try to do a little bit more of what we love into our content.
Right. So then the vlogs evolved into vlogs with a movie review. I was like, I think we should actually pick a different type of content, and we can put vlogs in there every now and again. But I think we should do. It actually started with vlogs, and then it evolved into movie reviews solely.
I think our very first video was actually us going to World Market, and we just got some random stuff.
Yeah, that video's still up if you
It's
guys
still
want to
up
look
there.
at it. Just go to the very bottom of our videos.
And you can tell you can tell how long ago it was. You can kind of tell the quality of it.
Yeah. And that's part of it. I was going to ask, was there any, specific technical obstacles that you had to overcome to learn, like any learning curves for yourself to get involved with it, recording, lighting, editing, such like that?
Oh, yeah. And I think that's where, working behind the scenes at Collider was such a blessing because it helped me learn just by watching. Like no one sat there and was like, you have to do this and that. Like you just watch by learning. And when you're surrounded by it every day, and I was really lucky to be working with like a lot of really knowledgeable, really cool people. You learn, you pick things up and you learn about, and I'm not saying I am an expert. There's always room to learn. And there's sometimes stuff that I see and I'm like, what is that? Or somebody will say a term and I'm like, I'm not familiar with it, but you just keep, rolling with the punches and you keep learning. And so from there, you kind of test different editing softwares, different lighting, different cameras, and then you just find what works best for you, like what works best for, I quickly learned like what works best for somebody else, like whether it's their camera setup, which would be great, but sometimes it only fits their needs, and what we needed, it was like either too much or too little. So you just kind of like adjust. And for us, we try to keep a real like bare minimal. I don't feel like we need, thousands of dollars in production things. I mean, things are expensive, like, laptop and cameras and lights and all this and that, they add up. Software. Yeah. But, it's not, I'm not for editing, like I'm not on Premiere because our videos, I don't feel like require it. If it ever does, then I would obviously, switch over because I do know how to use it, but
and I think
I know how to cut pros fine.
And I think that's one of the big things to always know. If you are an up-and-comer content creator, start where you can. First off, use your phone if you can. Learn whatever free software is out there and just start making videos. Even if later you look back and you're like, oh my God, what was it? You're never going to be able to get to where you want to get to until you start just doing it.
Yeah.
And it's always that first step that's really, really tough.
Yeah. And you started with the vlog content, and I feel like that's a natural gateway for a lot of creators at that time, sort of just documenting your lives and things like that. It wouldn't be until about 2015 when you started the reactions and you started with The Force Awakens. That was like a big catalyst for a lot of channels as well. I guess, what is your history with, on one aspect, Star Wars, but then also on the other hand, the reaction space as it was at that time?
So for Star Wars, it was this, continuation of the next chapter. We're still within, a little bit of that, like the Skywalker, trilogy or universe, but now it's moved forward and it's kind of like, wow, we didn't think we'd ever get another Star Wars. Ever.
Well, after, what is it? This was also the first Star Wars that Disney was doing, because they had just bought Lucasfilm, and when Disney bought Lucasfilms for like $4 billion from so much money. I know, and we're sitting here going, okay, let's see what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And then there was a long period of time where there was just whispers and rumors, and it was you could tell that it was like deliberately done just to start building up the hype and getting people excited, and it worked insanely well, because us being huge Star Wars fans I was just like, oh, what is it going to be? What is it going to be? Where is it going to happen? What stories are they going to tell? Yeah. So it was something that, it was just, we were in the right place at the right time, in the right position to be like, hey, let's do a reaction to this. And then when it just took off, we were like, okay, let's keep going.
I think that was, Eric, you said that, right? You probably know our content better than we do. Like that was our first reaction video. I don't even remember how I figured out how to edit and film all of that and put it together. I honestly cannot remember, but I knew that I wanted to try it and do it because it seemed like it was going to be fun. And I thought that it may get some views and get, just our channel in front of more eyes. That was really more of the thing, is like, I never thought this one video was going to be the catalyst that launched us into this whole other type of content creating that I really didn't think was going to be a thing. I was like, we'll just do one. It'll be like funny or whatever. Like we honestly didn't think it was so unserious. We're just like, whatever. It was in our kitchen table. Lighting was like really poor because I don't think we had
did
these
not
lights.
have any of these lights.
I think we turned on all the lights in the apartment and used the last bit of like natural sunlight that was coming through and like hope that it looked okay.
Right. Yeah, that's how it starts. I think everyone, again, going back to late to the party, I think they just had a lamp in their face that they were just using to, light themselves. Right. That's how it goes sometimes. And yeah, you mentioned, just being into movie talk and also getting into Collider at that time. I think one of the things that sets your channel apart from most channels is how ingrained you are in the industry, in the movie space, and being aware of like current events and developments. Did that influence you at all in terms of how you approached the content for reactions or for your vlogs or for anything like that?
Yeah, I think it had an impact because I feel like I kind of was getting more than just the content creator side of things. Is looking at, how a digital news outlet would work and some of the talking points that they would hit, and kind of taking that, a little bit of that inspired our videos and how we would sort of structure them. And again, like the reactions, we try to keep it really simple, really fun. I know, look at the analytics, people skip the intro, they go straight to the reaction portion. And as soon as like the video reaction portion is over, they're like checked out. That's right. Totally fine. Like I've done that too, where I'm just kind of like, I don't have time to watch the rest of this video. I'll like, do a watch later and come back or whatever. But it certainly inspired us to kind of think about it a little bit differently, like not too newsy, right, but also and I think we put more of the newsy topics into like our live streams.
Yeah.
Whenever we have time to do those.
Right. Once you started with the reactions, you came into it 2015, you stuck to trailer reactions for, a few years. That was kind of primarily what you were doing alongside the other materials such as the vlogs and such. Do you remember at that time in those early years, how you balanced that schedule of going to your full-time jobs, doing the trailer reactions, doing the vlogs, doing, like the public events that you would go to as well, and how you sort of find out how to maintain that schedule?
You want to feel that one?
Very little sleep. Because, at that time, oh God, we were working, not just trying to do the channel, but we were working our day jobs, our night jobs, our evening jobs.
Right.
And, at that time, it really was, we were kind of living the life of struggling artists. Yeah. So, and plus back when you're a little bit younger, you're able to put the, the stone to the grinder a little bit more. So, I hesitate to think if I could do it now. But
we were doing it now.
Well, no, true. Maybe I just felt more energetic back then.
Yes, that
and
would
I'm
be
starting
it.
to feel
We're
my
less
age.
tired. We're less tired back then.
It was one of those things that, if it's something you want to do, you find the time. You'll do the job that makes you money, the job that you enjoy. You do the content creating because it's a passion. So, it really is a juggling act for a while.
Yeah, it would get to the point where, I would get off at, say, like 5:30, something like that. And assuming there's no screening for us to go to, then we come home and quickly film whatever we need to film. And then one of us would cook dinner, one of us would edit. Usually right. He would be the one either cooking dinner. or picking up the dinner. And then I would sit there and edit and upload. And it was kind of like, it's almost if our own like personal lives took a back seat to like what was the priority was like where the money was, which was our jobs, and then the channel came second. And I feel like we really put ourselves in like the back. We put ourselves in the trunk. We're just kind of like, you get back there.
And
you don't matter. Your needs don't matter.
There's so many times that we're like, we get phone calls from friends. Hey, you guys want to hang out? You want to do this? And we're like, we have work, and then I have to film these videos, and then I have to edit them. And how about like next week?
Yeah, and it just wouldn't happen.
Now, every now and again, we would get, oh my gosh, we actually have some free time.
Yeah.
Let's sleep.
Let's sleep.
Yeah.
Let's clean the house,
Yeah. I definitely know what that feels like, especially it's the overwhelming pressure of free time. When you get that free time, you're like, what do I do? Like, I have this a lot of time that I'm not going to get again for a while. How do I prioritize to do in that downtime? And for you, when you started doing, say, the trailer reactions, you came in again, 2015, 2016, 17. That was when we hit the sort of second wave generation of reactors who were doing TV reactions. That was a big thing around that time with things like The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. But we stuck with trailers for a little while. Did you have any specific hangups or like reservations about like how come we didn't break into TV show reactions earlier on?
Yeah, it was daunting. The time commitment was daunting. A trailer is no more than 3 minutes, mostly. So, the time that I would spend on a trailer reaction, like if I want to be really generous with it, 40 minutes, including like up until I send it and it's finalized and I've triple checked everything and I upload it and it's like successfully up. Let's just say it's 40 minutes and I can move on with my day and I can do other things. Right. Another thing for TV reactions was I just didn't know where to begin. And like, is it okay for me to be doing this? And you kind of look to the other channels that are in the same similar space that have all, started doing it. It's like, well, they're doing it.
Yeah.
That probably means we are okay. What was the first TV reaction we did? Game of Thrones?
No. Did we do
I can answer that. It would have been in 20. I believe, from what I could find, it was in 2020. I believe you started with the Clone Wars finale.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the season 7, the new soap episodes.
The thing too, since around 2020 is actually when I started to learn. I downloaded DaVinci, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down so I can start really helping out more because we want to start pumping out more content. Yeah. It's the fact that when you do a trailer reaction, you don't actually have to cut the trailer itself. It's your reaction all the way through. However, once you start getting into video, you can't put the whole movie up there. You can't put the whole episode or series up there. So you have to clip this, change the sound on this, move the video over a little bit, only show the video for this long. Yeah. Make sure you snip it here. Make sure you change this. It's one of those things that it's an art that you can only really learn by doing. And then you make mistakes, and then you try to upload it, and it says, "Oh, you're not allowed to do." It gets declined. Yeah. What is it called? It's demonetized. And you're like, "Okay, got to go back and edit it."
Yeah,
and then you start learning the tricks.
Was the very first time I got like a copyright, not a strike, just a little ding. I was like, "What is that? What does that mean?" You have to call your fellow creator friends. They're like, I don't know. And they're like, "Don't freak out." I'm like, "I'm freaking out."
You crossed that bridge in 2020 with Clone Wars, obviously, as we said, because Star Wars, obviously a big part of your life and channel. When you got into that transition, though, did you find the sort of dynamic on screen, like, different in a way, like how you, obviously a trailer action, like you said, is like such a sort of finite, amount of like energy to put into it. Whereas a TV show or movie reaction, there's a lot to put into it in terms of like commentary and like sort of your awareness and being engaged with it and vocalizing yourself. Like, what was that sort of change like for you?
I think just to remind ourselves that we're still creating content. And so sometimes we get so into an episode that we forget the cameras, even though it's in our face, it's like set up and you have these lights like, kind of shining on us. We forget because certain moments are really good and we completely forget. And then another thing to really remind ourselves, it kind of goes hand in hand with that, because we are creating content. Normally we watch shows, if we're not recording anything, we're just watching, and our commentaries are internal. For reactions, we have to kind of be like, you have to say the things out loud. Yeah. You have to take your thoughts. And so there's times that I feel like we're a little bit late in our reactions. Now it's kind of second nature. But in the beginning, it's kind of like, I have to say what I thought about that I thought in my brain, but I have to use my mouth to actually say it. So there's actually content, or they're just watching us going,
yeah. And also I found out too, is the being able to watch, react, and commentate at the same time. Because even though you're reacting, the show's still going. So there's been times that I'm like, I'm saying something, I'm like, oh yeah, it reminds me of this and this, and what they just say.
Yeah. So we usually have to, have the captions, like, we have headphones in, but we keep the captions on luckily most shows do have captions. So as we are speaking, we're also reading. Just because people are like, you missed it. And I was like, no, we didn't miss it. We're reading it. But like, yeah, we did talk over the dialogue. So that I would say sometimes that's a little frustrating when I read it in the comments.
And also,
and I'm like, just because you don't, because I take the captions off when I show the show.
Right,
Because
right.
I don't think people want like that extra thing on their screen. I feel like they would feel too distracted. I don't know. I could be wrong. I've done it for a couple just to test the waters. Nobody said anything, so maybe they don't notice the difference. But
Right.
sometimes they're like, they missed it. I was like, no. Sometimes we're reading it and we do speak over a line, but we've registered it.
Mhm.
And then other times they're like, how come you don't keep this moment in there? And I'm like, because copyright. And I just don't fight it and I just chop it out. I was like, just take it out and
Yeah.
move on.
and there's also the fact that sometimes when we have the closed caption on there, the closed captioning phrase will come up before the character actually says it.
Oh, right.
So there's
Yeah.
a lot
Oh,
of
yeah,
times that I will react beforehand because I will I have a bad habit of trying to like, what is that? Guess what the next line is.
You do that. So
I do it all the time. And I drive her nuts sometimes because
I was like, you want to write the show?
there's a lot of times that I'm right. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's a cliche of writing something, or it's like, oh, it's a joke that you've kind of heard before, and you're guessing that this is the punchline.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where I've guessed it beforehand, and there's a lot of times that I've read it beforehand, and Wendy's like, stop it. So it's learning also now how not to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's a tricky balance to, like you said, do all that and maintain your engagement with the content as you're making. But the pandemic itself though was obviously such a, transformative time for everyone on and off screen. And for yourselves, you had the luxury of being a couple, so you were home together, so that you had the ability to continue the channel the way you were, sort of. But you also had to shift to things a little bit because, as I mentioned before, so much of your content was sharing your experiences at like public events and like screenings, premieres, stuff like that, and all that sort of went away, when the pandemic hit and we had to get into lockdowns. I guess, how did you approach the content on the channel once those things sort of changed and you started getting into things like the streaming wars and like all these new shows coming out for all the various platforms, just the new options that were in front of you?
We had a huge talk like the second that we knew everything was like, oh, this is like really, really serious. Everything shut down. I think when the NBA shut down, that's when everybody, in the States were like, oh my God. And then everything was shut down. Everything got canceled. We both got furloughed and then later on laid off. Well, I did. You were just
no,
furloughed.
I was just furloughed.
Yeah, you were just furloughed. And then, so that was kind of like, okay, well, it was kind of obviously really sad, very unfortunate, but I'm also like, can't put the blame on anybody because it's kind of like, what else can you do? You can't keep your employees on forever when, the workplace isn't making any money. So I understood. And so we had to shift really quickly. And I had talked to Dustin, about like, wouldn't it be so cool to like just do Movie Couple full time, to like really immerse ourselves into like the video creation but it's like, oh, we don't have the time for that. Is it a little risky? I don't know. And the pandemic kind of forces our hand to just be like, well, this is the only thing you got. So you can't go see your friends. You want to do like curbside for everything because like apparently you can't see people. So that pushed us into, okay, well, productions everywhere are shut down because of the pandemic. They hadn't worked out, the COVID protocols on set at the time. So the next best thing we could do, because we were a pod, we were, not going anywhere together. So we thought we would just live stream and we would be able to connect with our audience in a different way. And they were all sitting at home too. Unless they were essential workers, they had to be home. Everybody was home. So what do? Is we really went with, full into the streaming live streams, talking about the latest movie news or TV news or whatever other industry entertainment type of news that we could find and talk about, or just like a AMA session. We played a lot of games on Twitch. We were both on Twitch for quite a bit, and it was fun, and it helped let time pass.
Yeah,
Right.
it was, I mean, of course, during COVID, that's when everyone started to try to find out, what can I do online?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
can we do? How? Okay, well, let's stream this. Let's go on Twitch. Let's go on YouTube. Anything that we could do to keep ourselves from going insane. And fortunately, I was actually locked up with an amazing person. I don't think I could have made it through if I was by myself.
Ironically, we did not drive each other crazy. Like, I've heard
Yeah.
people like their marriages unfortunately didn't work out because of the pandemic, because
Marriages,
like they were just
relationships,
and like
everything.
but it just worked with
strengthened
us.
our
We
relationship.
we found out what worked. We were just like looking at different, like TikTok was was it up and coming in 2020? Was it already a thing?
It was already a thing in 2020,
Yeah.
right?
But it got like more popular, I think, because then everybody flooded
everyone was-
TikTok. So we would find like random like trends people were doing, specifically like, you know, how people were like making their own bread. We didn't do that because I was like, I don't have time to invest in that kind of thing. But like,
And you couldn't find flour.
yeah,
Flour was
Right,
nowhere.
yeah.
God, what a time.
Yeah.
We would make copycat Dole Whip, because Disney released
Oh yeah.
thing,
How to
there
make
were
dough with
certain kinds of
Oh, yeah.
coffee, like the whipped coffee, the dalgona coffee we were making, just whatever we could find. We found it and we were just doing it at home because there was literally nothing else to do.
Yeah. That's how I met my current partner, Drew, who you know
That's
Wendy very well. We met because of the pandemic, because she came out to do a Schmodown event and got stuck here. And I was just like, I don't want you to have to fly back to New York. Why don't you stay for a couple of weeks? You know, this will blow over by then. And then here we are, 4 years later.
So we thought.
Yeah.
I remember a conversation we had when we were out walking our dogs with one of our neighbors, and they're like, "Oh, my daughter's birthday is going to be in September," and Wendy was like, "Oh, if this is still around in September, we're all going to be dead." Sure enough,
Yeah.
September,
I
October.
said the same thing to Perry.
I know.
Because that's
Right.
I think that's around the time where you go to TIFF, and we weren't sure if TIFF was going to be, so mind you, this is February, March, I think it was February, and she's like, do you think it'll be canceled? I was like, oh my God, no, Perry, it's going to be resolved by then. There's no way. I was like, we're all going to go to TIFF.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, though, at that time, and you said, Dustin, everyone jumped on the content creation train. I mean, that's also how we got the sort of new boom of reactors coming into the space and doing, movie reactions, stuff like that. So many channels launched because people were at home just thinking like, I have nothing to do. I need an outlet. I'll try this, reaction game that I've seen people go at. For yourself, again, once we got into the new era of shows like The Mandalorian and the Marvel shows, stuff like that, how do you remember what that sort of new landscape felt like once we had those shows that were now, they're kind of like the new prime time era shows that everyone was talking about at midnight? Thankfully they're earlier now to get to.
Yes,
but back then it was the hustle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they still drop some at midnight.
Some of them still drop at midnight,
Right, yeah.
but that's we're so that's like the schedule. I'm so used to it that it doesn't even faze me anymore. But I was actually really excited, mostly because we didn't have other obligations. Couldn't like go and spend time with family or whatever because it wasn't safe for them, or for us potentially, just risk of getting sick. Earlier in the pandemic, that we kind of celebrated it, and it gave us something to not just do and to put towards the channel, but it was also for like mentally.
It was that creative
us.
outlet.
Yeah, it was a creative outlet for us to be like, okay, we're doing something rather than just sitting home and like twiddling my thumbs. Because like,
Baking
how much
bread.
more, Dole Whip and dalgona coffee was I going to make? And like eventually you get tired of just scrolling, doom scrolling on your socials or.
Oh, that was a big problem I had.
Yeah.
I had a big problem at that
This
time
one.
with doom scrolling,
Yeah.
and just trying to keep my sanity and giving us something to do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, was a saving grace. And it was mainly Wendy that
Yeah.
was driving that bus.
And it was really exciting too, because, fellow creators in the reaction, universe bubble, we were all on kind of the same timeline.
Mhm.
So there definitely have been times it's 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm texting Robert from Late to the Party. I'm like, hey man, how's your reaction go? And like, and we somehow our timing at the time was like lining up. Now it's changed significantly because like our like schedules and everything, personal schedules have changed.
Yeah.
That
But
and
we would-
daylight savings time is now back in
Yes.
effect.
But we would text each other and be like, oh, did you have any trouble with your videos? Like we just chit chat. Like I think I used to have a group chat with like a bunch of the other creators.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
honestly something that has helped so much is the relationships that Wendy has cultivated. I mean, she does an amazing job on communicating with other. She's a lot better at it than I am. And she has just created this wonderful friends group, and the people, Wendy has gotten so many wonderful people. I mean, it helps that she's a wonderful person herself. That can help us, we can help them. And I can't believe just how supportive the group is.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing. It just makes creativity flourish a lot more when you're there supporting each other, working together, trying to work out problems. And it gives you that motivation to keep on driving forward. Finding your niche, finding your society, really help. Finding your community, that's the way I'm looking for it.
And like
really helps.
During that time too, speaking of friends, like that was a really, really great time to get to collab with a lot of people that normally wouldn't have time due to their busy schedule or time differences. Specifically, not so much Robert and Vanessa, just because they are in a similar time zone. So like coordinating wasn't as hard with them because we didn't have to calculate the extra 3 hours. But with Previewed, Jay and Adam, that was a little bit harder. And it was during the pandemic, and I can't remember who reached out to who, but it was just like, hey, let's do it. And I love their content, and I think they're hilarious. And we really hit it off. So like,
and they are some of the most fun people to
They're so
play
fun.
Mario Party with.
JJ will make, oh my God,
He'll
he
wreck
is
you.
so good at the game. It's like comically hilarious whenever I play with them, and people in the chat are like, oh wait, we think Wendy's gonna be the winner, and I'm like, have you guys not watched his stream? He dominates this game
Didn't you actually win your first one?
on a dice roll.
It was
we
a dice.
Him and I tied, and then we rolled the dice, and I rolled better. So
And weren't you actually in like last place? And then
Something
you just got
crazy.
all of the awards.
Right.
And
Or
then you
sucking.
both
Oh yeah.
tied. And you could hear.
I got extra superstars.
He was like, what?
It
He was so bad. It was such a fun. But they make it so fun to work with. They're so fun to work with.
Yeah.
I miss playing Mario Party with them.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun when you have a great community on your side.
Yeah, those guys are great. I just had them on a couple weeks ago for their own episode about this,
good.
and they're fantastic. And you're right though, in that era, it kind of almost felt like in a way like being like back at college, just like that sense of like everyone's just hanging out and staying up late, and like there are like a certain lack of responsibilities that we had because they were stripped away from us to a certain extent. And I even had also a sort of healthy work rivalry with Robert because I was editing for The Real Rejects at that time. So we would be up like racing to get our reactions out first between one another for like WandaVision and so on. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, WandaVision.
Yeah.
What a time. Yeah.
At that time, how did, because as things sort of stabilized, you continued doing the reactions that we have now. Now you're still doing episode reactions to things and trailer reactions. But the world has sort of healed to an extent. So you can get back out to doing public events and some vlogging and podcasting, stuff like that. How have you approached getting back into the swing of things with now these new options at your disposal and still being sort of creatively flexible with how you sort of want to maintain that?
I feel like I thought my schedule and my head was going to kind of bounce back to pre-2020 and like the kind of like work schedule that the internal clock that we have inside of us. And it actually didn't quite happen that way. I think I just got so comfortable like doing the shelter in place or whatever, like being home all the time, that now I all of a sudden don't know how to manage my time as well. And then also it's kind of like, well, I still also need to like find other income other than just YouTube. People think YouTube, and not saying like none of the YouTube people don't make money. Like some of them really do.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's still like nice to have supplemental income. So I freelance and I find jobs wherever I can to do, whether it's like writing or production coordinator, whatever it is. So when those things happen, for me, then they take a priority because they have to. I have deadlines that I have to meet because I would like to continue to work and write for various outlets. So, I have to deliver, and that's what they're paying me for. So sometimes then that means the channel and the content take a back seat. Another thing is that if one of us gets sick, and it's happened to me and to him.
Yeah, I got really sick this last
then we can't film together because he doesn't have a voice, or like we're too contagious, and like if he has COVID, I don't want it because I got other things lined up that I have to go and do. And so if I get sick, I literally can't go.
Yeah.
So that hinders a lot. So that's like a whole new territory that I didn't think I have to worry about until it happened, and I was like, oh, and then it sets you back weeks, and then to catch up is kind of crazy. But it got to the point where you just kind of have to throw your hands up, and you can't fight. What are you going to do? You can't I don't know. It's not like you're not going to not be sick tomorrow. You don't heal that way. Yeah. So it's just learning to say, okay, and you just have to let it go. And I think we're so lucky that our audience are very, very understanding when it comes to us and our time and our schedule. And they're very, I'm just really grateful for that. And they're always like, it's okay, health first. And whenever the content can go up, goes up. Right. So I really appreciate them. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I have to admit, our fans are amazing. We have such a great, we call them the movie bunch. And it's great because they've always been so supportive. They've always been there for us. And honestly, I think it's really a part of that. It's them that has made it possible for us to keep going, keep striving forward. Because once we had to start getting back into the real world after COVID, it was a struggle. It's kind of like when I first got out of college, I kept on forgetting what day it was because I didn't have my classes. I didn't have my schedule.
Right.
And it took a while for me to kind of adapt. Coming out of COVID, I had that long period of time to where it was like, it didn't matter what day it was because whatever show was coming out, whatever show we had planned to do a reaction to, that's what we would do. But once, we were like, okay, oh shoot, I have to go back to work. I have to, on this day, I have this gig. On this day, I have this. Oh, okay, we have to go. And trying to get that schedule back on track. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
And a real shifting of gears.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those things that you just slowly have to be able to readjust to and being able to go back to life and still do the thing that you've been doing for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, for yourself, now being sort of at the level that you were in terms of the public events and things like that, how do you manage those opportunities with content that you can potentially put out for the channel? You get early screenings for movie events and like TV episode premieres, stuff like that. For the X-Men, I think you went to the 3 episode premiere. Whereas those are things that people can easily save and say like, oh, I'll save that for the channel. How do you sort of decide what goes in which box for yourself?
It's really just based on our schedule. If we know that our other jobs is going to make outputting all of that content more difficult, then we'll say we don't have time, and then we'll have to either sacrifice the first few episodes or like just do a review and do that instead. More often than not, though, we usually choose to sacrifice our time just to do it because people like to watch the reactions more than they like to watch the reviews. Like, we're never gonna stop putting out movie reviews or TV show reviews, but we also know that for the majority of the audience, they prefer to watch a reaction because it's a lot more entertaining to them. So we have to kind of juggle that a little bit and just know that, like with planning, we will sit down with each other at the end of each month, which we didn't get to do for March. So we're going to have to do that and just take a look at what is coming up next. And then you have to think about, okay, what movie screenings are there coming out? Which ones do we want to cover? Are you interested in this? Are you not interested in this? And then also the matter of like, can you get into a screening for a movie, or are they going to send you a screener link to, review? Right. And if they do or don't, and that also affects like what we put out, because then it's like for example, I'm trying to think what movie we didn't get to see, but we got literally invited to a bunch. So I don't have a good example, but like, let's just say if they
There was a
don't.
couple horror movies that came out that, since I'm not very big into horror movies.
Oh, okay.
there's
The
a lot
First
of
Omen
times-
is a really good example.
Right.
We were invited. I knew I wasn't going to take him because he wouldn't have fun watching it. So I would have gone by myself. But I was on a work trip. So that was something that we just decided to, that and Immaculate.
Mhm.
We just ended up having to not cover altogether because the only way I can see it now is to like obviously buy a ticket and go to the theater, which we've done before many times, and just like review it,
Yeah.
you know, like as soon as we can, and that's fine. But because of how our schedule's working out and all the other work that was piling on top, we just ended up making the choice to kind of scrap those two, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like we'll get to see it. We'll watch it eventually. Well, I will watch it eventually. But probably don't think I'll do a review because now it's, especially for Immaculate, it's kind of late. I think for the First Omen, I might still be able to because it doesn't come out until this Friday.
Right.
Well, and also there's just so much content out there too when it comes to different shows, different movies, different movies on streaming, movies out come out into the theater. You really have to pick and choose. What are you passionate about?
Mhm.
What does your audience want
Mm-hmm.
from you exactly? I mean, there was a lot of times that we were putting out a whole bunch of content on the Movie Couple channel, like a lot of our vlogs
Mm-hmm.
from the theme parks and stuff, but no one really wanted to see those because they weren't getting views.
Yeah.
So Wendy made the other channel.
I made Wendy Vision, which is so basically all our new vlogs go there, with the exception of the Fraggle Rock vlog, which
That
was a
such
Jim Henson
cool-
Creature Shop visit.
that
Really
was
cool
such a
experience.
visit. I wanted to go to that with you so bad.
Yeah.
Because I love Jim Henson. Grew up on Jim Henson.
Yeah.
Right.
And I wanted to see that so bad. I got so jealous. Wendy's gotten to do a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
pretty cool stuff this past week. And then the choice to put Fraggle Rock, the vlog, on our channel was because sometimes when you're invited, they ask you what's your plan for the coverage? When they ask that and they're reaching out via like the Movie Couple, then I would not put that video on any other outlet or
Right.
platform other than the Movie Couple, because that's what they're looking for. So
Makes sense.
that's why,
Yeah.
and I think I explained that to our audiences in like a community post. I was just like, vlogs are moving unless they're specifically, like, we were specifically invited to cover as the Movie Couple, then they will end up on the Movie Couple channel.
Makes total sense. And yeah, over the years, working with the industry in the sense that you have, and maintaining a relationship with the movies and your engagement with it, obviously, in the last 6-7 years, online fandoms have, sort of evolved in like very volatile ways, for better or for worse. And it's hard to, stay engaged with it and maintain a sort of healthy, sane relationship with some of the people that choose to engage with it in a certain light. For yourselves, I always found that you two are very positive. You two have very constructive criticism about anything that you watch. You don't really, bash on anything needlessly, or you don't approach anything with a sort of negative attitude. How do you maintain, that sort of healthy, positive relationship with the material that you love, while still existing in a space that, you get a lot of attention because you're an outward-facing public channel that has to vocalize your opinions on a day-to-day basis?
Ooh, that's a tough
Good question.
That is a really good question.
Really good question.
Honestly, both Wendy and I are very much, we don't like bashing on things. We try to find the good in any content and anything that's brought out. No matter how bad something is, there are a lot of people who put blood, sweat, tears. We've been
It's a BTS song.
parts.
Sorry.
We've been on projects that, rarely see like the light of day before, but yet just all of the energy that is put into it. And I'd hate to just bash on something that someone spent so much time working on. Now there are some times that the criticism is justified, but we try not to be mean we don't want to be mean.
Yeah, the thing is that when you enter as fans of just movies and TV show and just entertainment in general, I don't think anybody walks into a theater and go, oh, I can't wait to hate on this thing. Like, that's certainly not our approach, nor would it ever be. If I'm going to have that approach, then I'd rather not see it, because then I myself am already not going to have a good time with it. It's called entertainment. I want to leave my life behind, leave my worries behind, and lose myself in this TV show or movie for the next 60 plus minutes, 2 hours, and just, get really immersed in the story. So it really depends on like the storytelling and our experience. We're always fair, and we're not fair, but we're always honest in our criticism. If we don't like something, we're gonna tell you we don't like it, but we're gonna tell you why we don't like it. And it's not just because like, oh, I just don't like it. Like, we would never say I just don't like it. There's always a reason behind it, whether it's we wish a certain story was told better, or this certain character got more of a highlight, or the pacing and the direction's wonky. We're going to talk about that. But we also do know, coming from like a production standpoint, having like worked behind the scenes on so many things, so many people worked on a project. So it just never feels right to just go in and straight up like bash something. So I would say that's, our approach is.
Well, also there's so much content out there. You have to, no matter what you're doing, you have to kind of pick and choose what you're going to do. We usually trend towards picking and choosing things that we are passionate about. We do reviews on Star Wars stuff, which we love, Marvel stuff, which we love. The movies that we go to usually are movies that we are interested in. So we're always going to have more of that positive outlook and that desire for wanting it to be good. Very rarely there's movies or shows that we will do reactions to and stuff that we're like, oh my God, I don't want to see this. Why are we even wasting? No.
I think the one show we did that with was the Wheel of Time series.
Oh yeah. And a lot of times you'll find that too. If we kind of haven't finished it, it's because either one, we got super busy and distracted by something else. Oh,
that's what happened with Stranger Things. That's why we never we literally have not been able to finish watching the show because everything just keeps piling up. But the Wheel of Time, like, I thought it was all right, but he's such a big fan of the book.
I've read all of the books more than once, and there's like 15 of those books, and they're all like that thick. I've read all of them multiple times. So I could not, for that show, get out of my head. And I was trying my hardest, going, that's not the way it's in the book. And I'm like, Dustin, stop it. But that's it was tough.
So we just
and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, we didn't want to hate watch it. I mean, so like that wouldn't have been fun for us either. And like because don't forget, like, as creators, once we finish filming something, right now we don't use editors I think eventually maybe we will approach, that topic again. But right now we just edit our own stuff. So it's not just like we watched it once and then it's like done and magically edited, how I wish that was the case. But like we have to go back and edit. So it's almost, I feel like we're watching the show 2 or 3 times through.
That's always the hard part too, from what I hear from people who still do their own edits. It's like having to sit through once again, if it's a really emotionally heavy episode, trying to sit through that again and go through your emotions within your emotions that you're watching on camera. I guess it's a tough gig to get through. But so for now that you have, again, like all these options to work with, and you have your sort of strategy of where you pick and choose with the content that you want to put out, do you have any sort of future plans or aspirations you have for the channel that you want to, get to for the next level?
It's funny. We actually just like had a really short conversation last night about that. I think you brought it up because I really enjoy doing like reaction content. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun for people to watch. I also know that it's really, really time consuming. So we just kind of had a conversation of like, what other content could we possibly introduce to our channel that's within the realm. I think if it's completely outside of the realm, we would start a whole new channel completely separately. We wouldn't just tack it onto the movie couple. It would be movie couple adjacent, but I don't think I would do that to our audience. So we kind of, we didn't really come to any sort of like solution of
what exactly
we do, but it's definitely a conversation that we we think about, because a lot of the times with the internet and content creating, it can be also a little fickle. Like this is trending one moment, the next thing, then it's not trending anymore.
Right.
So what do we do if all of a sudden you're a reaction channel and then the reactions are a thing of the past?
Yeah, and
which
also,
that could change any day, anytime.
oh yeah, and honestly, the reaction market is kind of saturated.
Yes.
There's a lot of people out there who
Yes.
want to try to do a reaction to this because
Some of them are really good. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
I've watched them. A lot of the newer channels they're great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you've also got to find out, hey, what can we do to make us stand out? What can we do to change it up a little bit? Also, spice it up for us, because once you do kind of the same thing over and over again, especially when you're filming and then editing and then publishing it,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, okay, what can I feel? You get used to your rhythm,
Yeah.
so you're like, it starts sounding boring to you. So you're like, okay, what can I do to try and spice it up?
Yeah.
So we're right now trying to think of what are things that we can do to kind of, one, make it a little bit more interesting for us, but also make it more interesting for our fans and for the people who watch our content.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a good point to reflect upon where you come from for our final few questions here. The first one being, over your course of the time with the channel, what would you say has been the biggest, most consistent obstacle you faced?
Aside from like the time commitment that it does take to, set up, watch a show, edit a show, and publish, I would say it would be fighting the algorithm of YouTube of like, does your video get discovered, and what am I doing wrong? Because that's happened, not all the time, but it happens, and you're kind of like, why isn't my video in the search when you're so used to seeing yourself in like the top few searches when you type in your like, what shows everybody watching, like X-Men 97 reaction, you type it in, you're like, I don't see my thumbnail. And then you call your reactor friends and you're like, hey, can you just check on this for me? Like, they'll be like, yeah, I don't see your thing on there, and vice versa. And it's kind of like, did I do all the work for nothing? Because it's very, like,
it's very
how do
finicky. It's very like, you can get it right one day, and then the next day it's like, oh no, you didn't upload a video the last day, so now we are changing your search results. And you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah. So there's that. That's kind of like a new thing for us, where I was like, oh, and you know what it is when shorts came out.
Yeah.
For me, and I was thinking, because YouTube was pushing it real hard, and I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I post to TikTok, like I can post to shorts, and I feel like that really confused the algorithm for our channel. I can't speak for everybody else, but I feel like one shorts does well, but then the rest of your long videos don't do well. And I was like, yeah, but the majority of the audience is still watching the long form video. So there's kind of balancing that. That was a new thing that we are trying to kind of get more familiar with. And then the other thing is your strikes, your copyright strikes, and your, being demonetized. And trying to, like, how do we get around that? Because it's like, we're not taking a piece of like claimed content and putting it up there as it is. We're adding commentary, we're adding thoughts, we're 100% not showing the full thing. So it's just kind of like trying to balance that and finding the right formula to go, yeah, because this works, right?
Yeah, and that alone has become an extra full-time job. Just having to constantly fight having to go appeal it, and then having to argue this, and then having to say
not appeal.
No,
you dispute it.
Dispute it. Sorry. Wendy does most of it, and I feel so bad because she's the one that's actually, spending so much of her time doing that. And
it's sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't, and when they don't, you're just kind of like, oh well.
Yeah.
And you just have to move on to the next thing. You can't sit there and kind of, pout and be like, oh, you can't get stuck in it. You just have to move on, because content's always moving. If you're not putting out this content, somebody else is. So you just have to continue to like move forward. Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a consistent one I've heard from a lot of people. It's just the copyright issues of trying to navigate that. My next question would be, or how do you feel you've grown personally over your time with the channel?
Oh.
Well, I mean, after a while, you do really start learning how to ride the bike, so to speak. It does start becoming a little bit more second nature. I feel a lot more comfortable editing projects now that I've gotten, a few projects under my belt, and I've gotten to do different episodes and things to help out Wendy more and more. The more and more you do it, the more and more comfortable you start feeling with it. That awkwardness does slowly kind of fade away. When I first started editing, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is going to be terrible. People are going to comment on how choppy this looks. And you get very self-conscious. There still is a little bit of that, but you learn how to just kind of, have it roll off your back and move on.
Yeah, I would say I think the YouTube thing is, like algorithms specifically, it's always evolving. So you have to, that's like something I've learned to kind of how to study it. I don't have the right answer for like, oh, you asked me about algorithm. Like I couldn't tell you because I feel like that changes like week to week, if not day to day. Right. But is really, I think for me, one of the most important things I've learned throughout the entire time on YouTube is roll with the punches. And that's the mentality that you kind of have to go with, because otherwise you're going to stress yourself out so much, as if we all don't have enough stress in our lives already. That's like another thing. So I've definitely taken time to kind of take a step back, breathe, and let it go. There is one other problem that we are facing, but it has nothing to do with like YouTube. That I can't let go because it's our internet. I think I've talked to you about it. Our internet's being really weird. It's affecting our upload time by a lot. Yeah. It's been 2 weeks. So I don't understand what's going on. So that's something I like really can't let go, because I'm just like, there's a solution, right? Like I've literally tested all of this. But other than that, going back to the content creating, it's really being able to take yourself out of that moment, step back, go outside for a little bit, like walk around the block, and then come back.
And also having to deal with distractions. Since you're at home, there's a lot of distractions going on. Yeah. That you can be like, oh, let me just go up and go to the fridge real quick and get something. And learning to be like, no.
3 hours on TikTok later.
Whip out the phone. Yeah. Like, wait, how long? Oh, shoot. I gotta get that out now. Yeah. I gotta get that project out.
The do not disturb function is usually on my phone.
Yeah. That's definitely a big obstacle for myself is, the distractions of everything going around with the dogs barking and coming in and taking them out and stuff like that.
Navi coming up and putting her paws on my leg.
You're like, you're so cute, but I'm working.
I'm working.
Yeah. And the final question here for the main interview is, beyond any monetary or financial value, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
The most rewarding aspect of the channel, I think, it's getting to connect with the viewers. Some of them have been there since the inception of the movie couple, which is absolutely insane to me, because I'm like, how have you not checked out yet? But no, we really appreciate them. And we have a Discord that, like we all go in and discuss not just movie things, but like everyday things, like we have like a little food section in our Discord channel. It's just a lot of fun. So getting to interact with them, especially when we live stream, so you can, kind of see their comment and reply in real time. And I think it breaks, you were talking about like the parasocial relationships. Like, I feel like it kind of breaks that, because we're not talking face to face like a Zoom situation, but they're typing in a question and they're getting an answer in real time. And I really like that aspect of like being able to do that via a live stream and just like hear their inputs and why they like something, why they don't like something, or they tell us something that we're like, oh, we had no idea about this. Thanks.
Okay.
And also, I feel there's been more and more times now that we've kind of grown a little bit more to where I actually get to meet some of these people out in real life.
Yeah.
And I still get a little bit like, oh yeah, that's right. We have fans. That is so cool. And just being able to meet them and see their enthusiasm for the content that we create is very rewarding. And it does really re-energize you when someone does, some of the amazing comments in the comment section, some of the people that we meet at these events, and just sometimes out in public.
Yeah.
To where people go, oh my God, you're the movie couple. I'm like, oh, me.
Yeah, sometimes we're like, where? Oh. Us, yeah. And I would say the opportunities to get to, sometimes like I don't want to call them marketing, but I guess like publicity will reach out and be like, hey, we saw your video
All right.
on this. Do you want to come to this movie screening? Which is always really, really cool to just be like, oh, like they are watching. So we feel really fortunate to see that and be noticed. I think it was it Bryce Dallas Howard, she had a bunch of like reactors, like thumbnails in a Instagram carousel that she called out because like we reacted to one of the episodes that she directed from The Mandalorian.
Mhm.
And she was like, make sure you check these guys out. I think things like that are just really cool because I don't expect the people who are making the things that we are putting out for them to have, because they're busy people too. And it's like, they don't
Right.
have time. They're not watching reaction videos. And then every now and again we get one of those and you're just like, oh, what? They saw my face. Like the Mark Hamill one.
Oh my god!
I was like, he saw my face.
All right.
He saw my
He
face.
saw my face. But honestly, the one that I probably, not just Mark Hamill, that was probably the one I geeked out the most. But the one that I thought was really cool was when we were doing reactions to The Legend of Vox Machina, and Travis Willingham commented on something. And I'm like,
yeah, because he
Grog!
loves Critical
Oh,
Role.
I
He loves
love
them.
Critical Role.
Yeah.
I love watch. I have
Yeah.
not gotten to play enough D&D in my life. I want to play more.
And then
Yeah.
the last thing I would say is our fellow reactor content creators have been, we were friends before the pandemic, but I'm just grateful that if I need them, they're a phone call away, and they're everybody's so nice, so helpful. The rejects I've known from way, John and I go way back. Robert and Vanessa I met in 2017, I think.
It was with the Schmodown, right?
Yeah, and they came and visited Collider, and
Right.
then Tessa from Mama's Geeky, we also met in a kind of a similar situation, not Collider, but just at events and stuff like that. So I just think it's really cool to get to connect with people who also are doing the same thing you do, because I feel like we are each other's support group. When something goes really wrong, or you just need to vent about something because you're on the verge of burning out, because you're just tired. They're a phone call or text message away, and they're just so helpful. So I'm just really, really glad that I have them as friends.
Yeah, it's a fantastic answers plural for all that, especially the community aspect of it, because it's also my favorite aspect of doing this again, getting to know everyone. We do have our final questionnaire for you both. It's 10 questions you can each answer. The first question just being, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Of
all time?
Of all time?
You go first, Dustin.
Okay. I know this is going to sound like I'm trying to pitch something a little bit, but the one that I always think of that I had so much joy watching was the original X-Men series.
All right.
I loved that cartoon. I would watch reruns of it over and over and over Saturday morning, hoping that they'd show an episode that I hadn't seen yet. But I'd still end up watching it, even whether it was a rerun or not.
Yeah.
That's the one that I look back on, and so much of my fandom, so much of my geekiness comes from that show. So I'm gonna have to say that's the one that has the biggest part of my history, of my life in it.
Wait.
How ironic! Now we're watching that.
I know. Honestly, that's why that show is just doing it for me. It is just I am loving X-Men '97.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
For me, it would be it's so good. Well, really well done so far. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
As you sit there and say that, I'm like, oh yeah, but then there's Farscape.
You can only pick one though.
I know, but
You already-
I can't. I'm right there with Firefly, the original animated Avatar. So, but yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully this is a little easier, maybe. What is your favorite film of all time?
Can I say Star Wars?
The original trilogy.
Yeah.
The original. Because I always kind of clump those into it. From Star Wars. Okay, I'll just give you top 3: Star Wars, Princess Bride, and Goonies.
Okay.
I can't give you just one. I'm sorry.
I would say for me, it's one of the first movies that I saw with my grandpa that was outside of what my mom thought was this is, I don't know. She showed me a bunch of weird things when I was growing up, but the Studio Ghibli films, she never showed me. So I would have to say, normally it's The Little Mermaid, but I'm kind of thinking like way back, and it's Nausicaa of the Windy Valley.
Right.
I think that is like the correct English title. It was the first thing he showed me, and I was just like, wow, this is so cool, from the animation to the story to the characters. Ate it up.
Yeah, Nausicaa is fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite Studio Ghibli films as well. The next question is, what stresses you out?
I was about to say that's not a short list either. I think I get most stressed out on projects, especially when I stop getting like little sleep. You know, when projects have to be done and I start losing sleep. Wendy starts seeing me get really grumpy. So anytime that there's something that I have to like stay up late for, I'm usually not nice the next day, and I get super stressed out.
Right.
For me, it's saying yes to too many things. I say yes to too many things because I don't want a no to turn into now you're never going to get an opportunity. So I try to say yes to as much opportunities as I can, but then I overload myself, and then I sit there feeling completely overwhelmed, and I don't even know at that point you're just kind of freezing, and you're like, I don't know what to do first.
Right.
I don't know what to prioritize. So that overloading myself is one of the things that like really stress me out. And I do it to myself too, because I can easily say no to these things, but there's like a fear of like, I can't say no.
Yeah.
So I'll do everything.
I
and
totally
I just
feel
don't
that.
say.
Yeah, I totally relate.
Yeah. Yes.
On the opposite end, what helps you relax?
Food. For me,
Yeah.
food. I don't think I've ever met a calorie I didn't like. Food just, I just remember a time when I was just really depressed one time, and I was sitting with my mom, and I was eating like French fries, and I was looking at it, and I was like, is it sad that each French fry I eat makes me just a little bit happier? So for me, it's always been food, always been enjoying. That's one thing that I have loved about Wendy, being with Wendy, is the fact that she's introduced me to a lot of new food.
Heck yeah.
And she's introduced me to a lot of different cuisines, a lot of Taiwanese food, and I love it.
Yeah. Something that kind of relaxes me is, it's kind of weird. You think like being a reactor, like when I'm not reacting, I don't want to watch things, but I do, and that's K-dramas. K-dramas is like my really, because I just like immerse myself to some of the most dramatic, outrageous stories, but I eat them up. It's just like I don't have to like think about, oh, I gotta review. I mean, sometimes I do review K-dramas, but I'm not reacting to them, and I'm okay with that because I think that's something I want to keep for myself, and I love it. Like I just finished watching Marry My Husband, which if you love a good revenge drama, oh my god, go watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, of course, K-dramas definitely count. I know a lot of reactors who react to K-dramas, and it looks like a really great time.
So good.
What is a hobby or passion outside of TV and film that you have?
Sword fighting.
Oh, you didn't have to think about
No.
it.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Honestly, I haven't gotten to do it for a while, but I remember when I was involved with the studio that we worked with, I loved doing fight choreography. I loved the performance of it. I love just being able to lose yourself in the choreography. And I have to admit, that's one of those things that I want to get back into, that I just haven't gotten to do very much recently.
Right.
That and D&D.
Yeah.
Dance classes for me. I started off like, I know you asked me to pick something outside of entertainment, but it's kind of still in it. It's like adjacent to TV and film. But I started out as, like wanting to pursue a career in dance and in theater and stuff like that. So dance has always been like an outlet for me, because you're just letting you can't be thinking, like, yes, you're absorbing choreography, but you're not thinking, and like there's no algorithm or whatever. As you learn the steps, and you let your body and muscle memory do the rest for you, and you just kind of feel the music. So that's like my favorite. I try to take dance classes often as I can, which is not as often as I like maybe 2 a month. So it's not a lot, but it's more than I was doing from before 2020. So I think that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely take dance. That's obviously definitely a good passion to have, adjacent or not, to TV and film.
Yes.
What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Ooh, okay.
I've always tried to find like a chaotic good character. There's my D&D nerdiness kicking it again.
Yeah.
Every time I play D&D, I kind of play a character that's very kind of like, just because it's really fun. I'm trying to think of like a specific character in movies or television that I really relate to. Oh, okay. Complete opposite of the spectrum. I've always loved playing characters like Wesley from Princess Bride. That kind of like, I guess kind of like along the lines of like a Zorro-ish kind of character, kind of like that suave, debonair. Yeah, I think I have to go with that. Something more along the lines with that is something, a character that is very confident, very strong in who he is. And those are the kind of characters that I'm like, I want to be more like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to, my mind is drawing a blank, and the only two characters I can think of, and maybe it's because I've been watching this one movie and this specific show, and they both are somehow in the color scheme of green. One is Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated. Just her personality and mine, just kind of how snarky she can be. And unintentionally, well, I don't think I'm unintentionally funny, but the snarkiness and being like really sarcastic is so me but she goes to that extra level, and I was like, I aspire to be that level of like snarky or sarcastic. And then there's Disgust from Inside Out. When I saw her, I was like, I feel like that's my spirit animal. Although anxiety might be the new one that might take the throne from her. But yeah, that's my two characters.
Someone
That's
else that
great.
I think of is Jack Sparrow.
Oh,
For
right.
you?
Yeah, I would love
Okay. Yeah, you like the pirate stuff.
What is your guilty pleasure show or film?
guilty pleasure. Okay, so this means that it has to be something that other people wouldn't really necessarily
Know that you watch.
Yeah, or like something that
I'd hate
people
to
think is
admit.
like sort of, like a lesser experience or film. Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough
I
one.
have one. You want to
Go
you
ahead.
want me to
If
go?
you know, then go ahead, because I'm
You're
drawing
gonna
a blank on
you
this
people are
one.
gonna laugh, but Roka and I talk about this show all
I
the
know what you're
time.
talking about already.
Love is Blind on Netflix is such a guilty pleasure. It is so messy and it
Yeah.
is so insane. And I feel terrible for like a lot of the contestants who go on there, because I feel like it literally, people are examining your personal life, but also I'm kind of like with my popcorn, I'm like, ooh, what are they gonna say next? Because it's absolutely insane. That is a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to change it a little bit and go, instead of a guilty pleasure, can I say like a nerdy pleasure?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm a dork. I watch a lot of science videos. There's a couple different, Mark Ruber, who he was the one who did the, what is that called?
He used to work for NASA.
He used to work with NASA, and he created a glitter bomb package
Oh, right,
for
Like
pirate,
for the
porch pirates.
Yeah.
Science stuff, just learning a little bit more from this one channel called Smarter Every Day. And I love just learning about science sometimes.
Yeah.
I used to work at a science museum, and I feel, when I have to get this shirt that a friend of mine had, that it says, I apologize for talking about science when no one asked me about it.
It's so you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's so many times that I'm like, you didn't ask me about science, did you? And I just start blurting stuff out.
Yeah, it's a good passion to have, interest to have for that one. Yeah. What show or film give you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Ooh. I really liked the way season 2 of Mandalorian came out.
Oh, I was gonna say Loki season 2.
Oh,
Both great.
That was
Both great.
really good.
That was so much fun to watch. Like the entire time, we just love the stories. I still can't decide if I liked season 1 better or season 2 better. I feel like season 2 edges out a little bit more for me, but it was such a fun watch that it even editing it, didn't feel like work. It was just so fun.
Right.
Yeah. I have to change mine to that. Loki season 2
Yeah.
was just really fun to do.
Yeah, it's definitely I think the best uplifting Marvel thing that we've had in a while.
Yes.
Now I would say
Yes.
X-Men '97 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to again on camera for the first time?
Oh,
Great question.
oh, there's a couple. I wouldn't mind being able to watch Firefly again
Right.
for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of something that, because I've said that a couple times to people who are like, oh, I'm going to watch this for the first time. And I'm like, I am so jealous.
Yeah.
I want to be
Yeah.
able to be in your shoes again.
Yeah.
There's some of the classics, you know, I would love to be able to rewatch the original trilogy again and not having known what was going on, just so you can get that whole, I am your father. Because honestly, I knew about that before I even understood what was going on. So it's never like a big reveal to me. I would love to kind of relive that reveal.
I think for me, I don't know if we ever reacted to did we react to Game of Thrones?
No. Well, no,
I
we
think we
reacted
did
to season 8
Okay.
out of all
Oh.
seasons.
I would if I had an editor, I would redo all of Game of Thrones, because that was really, like, I remember, God, that was such a big thing.
Yeah.
Everybody was tuning into that show. It was so much fun to watch, the characters and the reveals and the politics. It was insane. So yeah, that's one I would choose.
Just how big some of those reactions were too.
Yeah.
You know, there were so many things that you were like,
You just can't have a favor in the show
It was
because
like,
they're not going to last.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they're all dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Game of Thrones definitely set the template for what we have now for shows, and people being on edge every episode or finale, thinking like this might be the end for them.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Our final question here is, what advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time when you first started the channel?
Learn editing sooner. Learn how. I wish I would have tackled learning how to edit sooner. I wish I would have downloaded DaVinci as soon as I could. And I guess if you want to even go further back, instead of getting a theater degree, I wish I would have gotten a film degree, because then I would have been taught editing all the way back in college. So I would have had that foundation of how to edit later on. So I would have been like, hey, hon, I can help you out with this, no problem.
Yeah. I would say an advice I would give myself is don't die for your art. Don't kill yourself to be the first. Being the first is always great. Obviously, like, the algorithm's going to work in your favor if you're monetizing your content. Right. That's definitely going to help. But at what cost for your mental health? I feel like for a while, my mental health took a backseat to everything else I was doing. And that's why I was burning out and I was really unhappy. And I felt like couldn't find joy in the content creating. And I feel like I finally got that back. I'm not saying I'm completely stress-free, because there's days that I battle that. But that would be the one advice I give myself, because that really took so much joy out of just what started off as a fun channel thing that we were going to do together. And it turned it into something I kind of at the time resented for a little bit. Some of the videos I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have to edit this,
What was that one video that took you 14
One of the Mandalorian episodes.
Oh.
It took 19 different edits.
Oof.
Took almost I think 10
I felt
hours.
so bad for her.
Because you woke up at 9 o'clock and I was still like,
I woke up to go to
do
work.
I edit out? Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, you're still up?
Yep.
I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I brought Wendy
but
home
fantastic
a bunch of
advice
flowers that day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Very valuable advice to give to yourself and to anyone who was thinking about, like you said, diving in and trying to be the first. Prioritize your mental health first rather than being on the algorithm first. Dustin, Wendy, thank you so much for being here. It was fantastic to get to listen to you, have you share your story here today. Where can we find you online? YouTube, social media, otherwise?
First, thank you so much for having us on and let us talk your ears off. And thank you everybody for tuning in. You can find our channel on YouTube, just The Movie Couple. And then on social, on Instagram, we're on Instagram, and on X, formerly Twitter. Instagram, I think it's just The Movie Couple. On X, we are The Movie Couple _. And we also have a TikTok, which is the same, The Movie Couple. So if you type in The Movie Couple, you will most likely find us.
Great. You can find me at Nerdchronic across social media. You can find us at Passionfruit for Us on Instagram and Twitter as well. If you're seeing this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. You can find this on the Passionfruit newsletter. Subscribe to that. We appreciate any numbers there as well. And we'll catch you on the next episode.